It was a time of coming of age, becoming a man. And it was an organization, their motto was "Be Prepared." Of course, I'm talking about the Boy Scouts of America. And I bought into the whole thing, the God, country, community, service. But I wasn't quite prepared, as their motto would indicate, be prepared for this. My father was very supportive. My efforts into Scouts, attended every ceremony, every merit badge, every advancement. I think for a time he even served as the scoutmaster there in the troop, and he was very proud of me. And I aspired through the ranks of scouting, various leadership positions. I narrowly received my Eagle Scout, which is the highest pinnacle you can reach in scouting. And here's my story why I didn't. I had won the sales contest for a scouting jamboree, selling the most tickets. And in addition to a bike, a tent, I also won 2 weeks of Boy Scout camp. And, the oldest of 7 children, my parents struggling to make ends meet. It was really the only way I was going to camp was to win that prize. So I did. And it was there at that scout camp that things changed. I remember the last night of that 2-week period, saying goodbye to new friends, saying goodbye to old friends. And it was an awards night ceremony, ritualistic. And as the night wore on, each troop, so to speak, went back to their base camp. And it was there that beer was supplied to us. Of course, men coming of age, no one was going to complain. And all I really remember from that night was waking up in the middle of the night in this lean-to with shared bunks from other people there. Was someone was in there with me. And I, shocked, scared, climbed out of the bed, grabbed my clothes, just didn't even notice who it was, and ran through the woods, dismayed, in shock. Kind of got lost and found, so to speak. Soiled myself, and just like a good Boy Scout, buried my underwear in the woods somewhere. And don't even remember the ride home from camp when my parents came to pick me up. And anyway, what I do remember then after returning home was, of course, my duties at the troop and such. Went to that next meeting, and after that meeting, the scoutmaster offered me a ride home, and instead of going home, took me to a place I've never been before, some garage, and proceeded. I jumped out of the car. He chased me around the car, and my only defense was to say, look, if you don't take me home right now, if you don't leave me alone, I'm going to tell your wife, I'm going to tell the scouts, I'm going to tell the church, I'm going to tell the police. And it was amazing. All of a sudden, I had the power. And sure enough, he took me home and only prayed that he didn't get caught or found out. And that's when it started to turn. I realized that, that deep shame that I had, I needed to kind of redirect that, and I redirected it directly to him, and that gave me the power. And I'd like to share to anyone out there who is a survivor of this kind of abuse that indeed you do have that power, and the shame that you feel is really a false guilt. It doesn't belong to you, and if you redirect that shame to the people that are to blame for this, we can turn this whole thing around. So it's really up to you. I would encourage you to support Catherine Mossman here in her efforts and stop trafficking me as I am with this. and hopefully can contribute more, because it's really an iceberg when I think about it, and it's scary to think how big that ice is below the surface, and what we can all do together here, and what Catherine is doing here, is we're going to invert that iceberg, and we're going to expose the dark ice to the light, to love, and that'll melt that large chunk of ice down. And
did you tell your dad what happened to you? Did you tell anyone what happened to you?
Not until years later. Unfortunately, my father, as that incident happened, I quit the Scouts. You know, that close to the pinnacle of an Eagle Scout. All I needed was a community service project and the board review, and he never understood why I quit. Just thought I was this rebellious youth. They were knee deep in kids. I was the oldest of 7. Half my siblings were in diapers. He was heartbroken that I quit at that point in time. Never understood why. And I never told him. To his day, he's died. And I did tell my mother before she died. She understood. So in a sense, really, you know, I'm sharing this as much for my dad to say that, you know, I've done my community service project here, and Dad, I've got my Eagle Scout badge. So.
Thank you very much for sharing your story. I'm sure your dad is proud of you. And once a Boy Scout, always a Boy Scout. And your life has been a tribute to those founding principles.
And carrying them forward.
And carrying them forward.
Thank you.